All right, Tom Brady's now in Tampa Bay, not New Orleans, almost said New Orleans. The 4 teams in the NFC South will be drafting next week. Let's start with the Saints. The Saints can't leave the draft without what, Chris?
Well, to me, again, the Saints are one of the better organized, orchestrated football rosters in the whole league right now. There's not a lot of huge glaring needs. I mean, to me, it comes down to 2 things, Mike. Maybe you got a different view here, but it would be either linebacker or pass rusher, I think, at the end of the day. And the more I look at it, the more I want to say pass rusher. And I know they have Marcus Davenport, but he's been injured a lot through the first few years of his career. He hasn't really performed up to where I think they were hoping as far as trading first-round picks to get him. Cam Jordan's getting up there in age. That would be an area I would look at. It's either that or middle linebacker. And, again, they're sitting in the spot at number 24 in the first round where there could be some middle linebackers that certainly make a difference for their football team. I guess I would say if you had equal on both sides, I would rather the pass rusher right now for a team that, again, has had moments of being somewhat average on pass defense. This would help them just get there with the front 4, not blitz. But I look at pass rusher more than anything as a position I'd like to see them bolster.
Yeah, and to the extent that you're in a division with Tom Brady and you're going to face him twice this year and next year, you got to get bodies that can get after him and disrupt him, especially if he's going to be holding on to the football a little bit longer than he has in the past because the Bruce Arians offense trying to get the ball down the field. So you always have to view your draft needs through the prism of the teams you play twice per year. And you've got 2 really good quarterbacks in Matt Ryan and Tom Brady, and a guy in Teddy Bridgewater who could end up being very good as well now that he's got a chance to be a starter again after 5 years as not a starter. So it'll be interesting, 4 years more accurately, not being a starter. It'll be interesting to see what the Saints do there. I think running back is something they need to consider because Latavius Murray has plenty of wear and tear. Alvin Kamara was banged up last year. He's going to want a big contract, and they've constantly used that rotation of 2 and 3 guys. And I think that even though Murray was good last year, they lost something when Mark was a guy to complement Alvin Kamara. And I think you need somebody who can bring more punch over a longer period of time than what Murray can do.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're spot on in a lot of ways there, Mike. It's an important position to that offense. You're right. They don't want to lose one of those guys and then go, oh, man, we can't do this on the offensive side of the ball now because we lost Alvin Kamara. We don't have a guy we could trust in the pass game. So I'm not mad at you with that thought. And again, as we talked about with the running backs in the first hour, you got to be thinking about drafting one every 3 to 4 years. The evidence is there now for us to know that after 3 or 4 years, most running backs start to go on a big decline as far as their physical ability. And I think it's about the time frame of when you need to start thinking about refreshing that position on your roster.
And if you have 2 or 3, they last longer in their NFL careers, and maybe you don't have to pay them quite as much because they never become that superstar talent. And they understand it's in their interest to stretch it out even farther. All right, the Falcons can't leave the draft without what, Chris?
Well, this is an easy one to me. This is cornerback all the way. They've done a good job as far as, adding some splash to their roster in free agency, traded for Hayden Hurst, got Dante Fowler in free agency. So they got a big time pass rusher. But I got to look at corner. Isaiah Oliver's there right now, Bleedy Ray Wilson. Of course, we know Desmond, Trufant's not there. Robert Alford gone. I don't look at them right now and feel warm and cozy about the cornerback position. Isaiah Oliver, a guy they drafted out of Colorado in the 2nd round a few years back, he's been good but not great. Bleedy Ray Wilson's been a little bit of a career journeyman. To me, that's an area of the football team that I think is glaring that says they need improvements right there. The defensive line, pretty good. Linebackers, pretty good. Safeties are good when healthy. They've adjusted the O-line. Running back, you could debate there, but I think corner more than anything is the position I look at.
Yeah, and again, this is another one of those needs that is crafted by where you are. You're dealing with the Saints twice a year. You're dealing with Tom Brady now twice a year. And with Trufant gone, a guy they released in the offseason, they're going to need to upgrade there. So I agree with you on that. And offensively, look, it's not going to hurt to have some more offensive linemen to keep Matt Ryan upright. He missed some time last year. I think he was banged up a little bit, had an ankle problem, missed a game or two. You don't want him being injured. You're going to fade from the pack quickly if he's not healthy and ready to go. All right, Buccaneers can't leave the draft without what?
Well, it's an offensive tackle. I mean, if you want Tom Brady to play for 2 more years, you better get a tackle and protect him. I mean, we don't want Tampa Bay injury or something like that. I mean, that's not what we want. But regardless, they need, DeMar Dotson. I think he's still out there as far as free agent. He was their starting right tackle the last 2 years. And maybe I missed it. I don't think they've re-signed him. But whether they re-signed him or not, they need to draft the position. They just don't have enough depth. They got to prepare for, a guy like Dotson leaving somewhere here. If they did re-sign him, and I'm wrong, I don't think they did, to replace him regardless. They need more young talent at the position. And I think that would be the thing that they would address. They need a starting offensive tackle to not only help their run game, but to protect Brady and have that Bruce Arians risk it, no biscuit type of mentality. If you want to throw the ball aggressively down the field, you need time to throw the ball aggressively down the field. So that, to me, is the one that makes the most sense for sure with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to focus on the interior offensive line just to have depth, have enough guys, have enough. With Brady, the concern is up the middle, right? And I understand they need to have tackles too, especially if you're going to hold the ball longer. The pocket's going to collapse more from the outside, and Brady may not be able to step up and move like he once did. It's the arm that will stay. It's the legs that will go away. But you don't want to be vulnerable up the middle. We've seen too many times when there's been pressure up the middle in Brady's face, that's when you get to him. That's when he starts looking down instead of looking down the field. And the Patriots have done a good job, for the most part, keeping that from happening to him. That's going to be a challenge in Tampa Bay, because once that leak arises in the middle of the offensive line, that's when you have an opportunity to really hamper Tom Brady's effectiveness. All right, the Panthers can't leave the draft without what?
Well, I look at them offensively and feel pretty good about them. Defensively, man, there's some holes. I mean, you lost James Bradbury in free agency. Luke Kuechly retired. They've lost Vernon Butler and Dontari Poe as far as defensive tackles. Kawan Short, the other defensive tackle they paid a lot of money to, who was a star just a few years ago, has just been good, not great, the last few years. So I look at D tackle as being the position that I think they need to upgrade the most. And them, and I should have hit this with Tampa a minute ago, but with Carolina, where they're sitting at in the first round, they should have pick of the litter as far as the defensive tackle is concerned. I mean, there's 2 guys that I think stand out for the rest as far as Javon Kinlaw or Brown from Auburn as being the 2 best defensive tackles in the draft. And I would think for sure one of them is there for Carolina to take in the top 10. But that is certainly a position I look at to go, they don't have enough on the roster right now, let alone, enough good ones. They need depth and more talent at the position. So D tackle is where I go, Michael.
Yeah, now that they have a new head coach in Matt Rule, who clearly has his vision for how he's going to do things, and they've made major changes at the quarterback position, I think they need a quarterback that they can develop. They don't have to rush him to the field. They're paying Teddy Bridgewater 3 years, $63 million, but as a practical matter, I think he's got the job for 2 seasons.
2 years,
it gives you time
right.
to get a guy ready. You get a guy Matt Rule's comfortable with, that can grow and develop, and look, Teddy. I feel bad for Teddy Bridgewater that he'd only be there for 2 years and then get thrown overboard again. But I almost feel like he's kind of accepted that that's his fate, that he's just going to go wherever he's needed, whenever he's needed. And I think that it's time for the Panthers to be thinking about getting a young quarterback that will be that guy who takes over and is there for 10 years or longer.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.